Sonic Mania, the sequel to Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Well, at least one of the possible sequels is either this, Sonic Triple Trouble, which I am not covering, or Sonic 4 to the name, but Sonic Mania just makes the most sense to cover next, as, yes, I am doing this series timeline-wise, not release-wise. Releasing on August 15th, 2017, quite the time jump this time. Instead of being made by Sonic Team, it was created by Christian Whitehead with the help of Headcanon and Pagoda West Games. And Sonic Team only oversaw production, and now, if you've been part of the Sonic fandom for a while, you would probably know Christian Whitehead, who also went by the Taxman. He is the creator of this famous Sonic fan game, Retro Sonic, which was known for how accurately it recreated the Retro Sonic engine, eventually leading to him teaming up with Sega to release a mobile port of Sonic CD that was fully recreated with his engine, and then later he worked on Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 ports. Also, those ports were the ones used for Sonic Origins. Then, eventually, co-developed Sonic Mania using that engine once again. And like the last four, it received extremely high ratings with an 86% on Metacritic and 8.7 on IGN. This game was also made to commemorate the 25th anniversary of Sonic the Hedgehog, and also there's only one version of Sonic Mania on all modern consoles, with the Sonic Mania Plus DLC as well. Once again, we follow Sonic the Hedgehog and Tails returning to Angel Island, where Eggman has his egg Robos digging something out the ground. And what they are digging is known as the Phantom Ruby. And as they dig it out, time and space warps, and Sonic and Tails and Knuckles, who is just chilling nearby, all get pulled in and sent to Green Hill Zone, and it's transformed the Egg Robos into a group of 5 known as the Hard-Boiled Heavies, those being Heavy Gunner, Heavy King, Heavy Magician, Heavy Rider, and Heavy Shinobi. And also, fun fact about them, Heavy Magician and Heavy Rider are both female. And Eggman is using the Phantom Ruby to send Sonic and Tails to a bunch of places from their past and some new places, and eventually Sonic and friends discover that Eggman is once again mechanized Little Planet. Also, I'm sure they wanted to have a different story, but Sega wanted to tamper with it because they wanted it to tie into a future Sonic game we'll be covering much later. Once again, the gameplay, much similar to the last 4 games, especially since Origins uses the same engine. We once again have Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, and the later two have the same abilities. But Sonic has the new ability of the Drop Dash, which, since this ability has become a fan favorite, it has been put into every later classic moveset. But when jumping, you can hold A to charge a spin dash mid-air and get a burst of speed when landing. And later on, you can unlock the Instant Shield and Super Peel Out in this game by getting gold medals, which I'll talk about later, and personally, I use the Super Peel Out the most. But also the elemental shields from the last game return, as the developers thought that even with the drop dash, there would be no reason to play as Sonic over Knuckles or Tails. This game uses the same zone formula as the last game we covered. 2 acts, both ending with a boss, and Act 2 usually adding some new gimmick to spice things up. But this time we are covering the zones a bit differently. Due to this game reusing a lot of zones from the last 4 games, we'll be covering them in order based on the game they're from, and then ending with a quick ranking. Starting with Green Hill Zone, the only zone from Sonic 1, and of course it is the first zone. Now Act 1 is just a modified version of the 3 acts of Green Hill Zone from Sonic 1. But Act 2 is where it starts getting interesting, with a completely new level design, and it's at sunset or maybe just in a cavernous area. And here we will introduce the concept of maniafying. Basically, what you do to maniafy something is to take a zone and all of its original gimmicks, give it a touch up in the graphics department, and then throw in some other gimmick or badnick, either new or usually from another zone that didn't return. And for Green Hill Zone Act 2, they brought back the zip lines from Angel Island Zone from Sonic 3, which only fitting they would bring back a very simple gimmick for a very simple level. The badniks are all the originals, Buzz Bomber, Chomper, Crabmeat, Motobug, and Neutron, but from Marble Zone, Bat Brain makes a return. And the sub-boss is the DD Wrecker. At first it follows the same pattern as the Egg Wrecker, but its two balls will turn red and spiky, hit them one that's not red and spiky, and once one is destroyed, one ball will go to the upper right or left, turn spiky, and bounce across the screen, then slowly go up to the side. While it's going up, hit it. It's a very simple boss, and it's of course the first boss. And then the boss is the Death Egg Robot from Sonic 2, but this time it's incredibly easy, as A, he forgot to remove the rings this time, and B, he forgot to install a hitbox for his leg, so just walk right under him and hit him underneath, and it's easier than the DD Wrecker. Alright, on to Sonic CD, which has two zones, the first one being Stardust Speedway, and this zone has changed a lot. Because the Mania team did not want to bring back Sonic CD's time travel mechanic for at most two zones, so they had to get a little bit creative. And by creative, I mean give Stardust Speedway Act 1 almost every mechanic from Marble Garden Zone, and also a couple from Mushroom Hill, and one new gimmick, that being the capsules that appeared at the end of every zone in Sonic CD, return as a new gimmick. Breaking them releases a bunch of low planet flowers still, but also makes a new beanstalk to platform on. Also, Act 1 takes place in the past of Stardust Speedway, but Act 2 gets very different, as in between acts you hit a future post and go to the present, where there are now fireworks to ride on, and a bungee rope, which is apparently from Sonic Advance 3, but we'll talk about that game later. The bandits are Dango, Hotaro, Kabisira, and Kanabo. Again, with no new inclusions. The sub-boss is Hotaro Ahechwa. It has three attack patterns. The first one, Hotaro will go around, zapping the place, destroy it, then two will appear, connect together, then go down, destroy one of them, then Hotaro H-Wop will appear to zap the ground from side to side. Hit him while he's doing this and avoid the laser, and it's very simple. Then there is once again the reason Sega remembers Stardust Speedway. Metal Sonic, who I once again believe has one of the better boss fights in this game. It's 3 phases and actually a boss fight this time. You will start by running alongside Metal Sonic again, but this time it's not a race, you are simply avoiding him. Then soon you two will get to a room where Metal Sonic takes control through a control pad where he shoots balls of energy at you and summons Silver Sonic from Sonic to 8-bit to attack you with relatively the same attack patterns as Metal Sonic's fights. Destroy or launch Silver Sonic to hit Metal Sonic, then after that phase you will get to running again, where soon you will reach a straight platform with Eggman, who upgrades Metal Sonic with the Phantom Ruby. He will walk towards you like the giant Death Egg Robo fight, and he can either shoot you with a laser or shoot bombs at you, avoid his arms, and hit the Phantom Ruby in his chest to defeat him. And I have a lot of fun facts about this fight, like how Metal Sonic has a jump sound effect from Sonic CD, and phases 2 and 3 are based off of bosses from Knuckles Chaotix, a game I do not have footage of. And this is the only boss fight in the game to have been completely changed in an update, as they changed Phase 3. The next zone for Sonic CD is Metallic Madness. The second to the last zone, and like Stardust Speedway, they removed time travel, but they actually kept most of the same gimmicks. They did not add many two new ones, just one really big one, that being, through using the same seesaws they used to catapult spikes onto you, now they send you to the background to platform back there. And of course Act 2 brings back more of the gimmicks from Metallic Madness, such as the flywheels and the shrink ray. The gimmicks are mostly the same, that being Mechaboo, Polby, but they replaced Big Bomb with Matryoshka Bomb, which before exploding will open up and release a smaller bomb, essentially combining the two different bombs, and they just got rid of Dongo. The sub-boss is the Egg Pistons Mark II, the sequel to the final boss of Sonic 1. It starts out with the same attack pattern, also the old orbs won't hurt you if you have a lightning shield, but after 4 hits the Egg Pistons start to go haywire and blow up, removing the bulb, producing the orbs that shoot at you, and the pistons start to pour in one by one in quick succession, and Eggman appears in every 4th piston. Then the next boss is Gotcha Pandora, and first you are small during this fight due to the Shrink Ray Egg, and Eggman does not attack you with the Gotcha Pandora, he just hovers around. But to attack you need to turn the crank to have it release a capsule, which can be one of 3 things. a miniature egg drillster, which will for the most part act like the normal egg drillster, but it will only take 4 hits and won't launch the drill. The second prize is a miniature egg scorcher. Why are there so many versions of the egg scorcher? Anyways, it shoots out fireballs every 4 seconds. They will also create little fireballs on the ground, and it takes 4 hits. Then the final prize is Amy Doll, who chases Sonic so she can hug him and blow up. She only takes 1 spin dash to defeat, and after dispensing all of Eggman's gotchas, he will fly off screen until you destroy all of his prizes, and after that, just turn the crank one more time to defeat him. Like Sonic CD, there are only 2 zones from Sonic 2, the first one being Chemical Plant Zone, as the second zone of the game. Now, like Green Hill Zone, Chemical Plant Zone Act 1 takes the original 2 acts of Chemical Plant Zone from Sonic 2, combines them together, and just adds a couple new things on top of it. Also, fun fact, I just learned this about the chemical water in Chemical Plant Zone is referred to as Mega Mac. And in Act 2 they add some new gimmicks, of course. This time they add little bounce pads of gelatinous Mega Mac that I can only believe is somewhat based off the bounce pads of Wacky Workbench Zone. I am pretty sure they even share the same sound effect. There are 3 types of this gelatinous Mega Mac, that being the dark blue, which hurts you unless you have a Robo Shield, light blue, which bounces you slightly, and green, which bounces you very high. The Badniks are the returning Grabber and Spiny, but coming in from Angel Island Zone is Caterkiller Jr., who joins the fun. The sub-boss is Amoeba Droid. First it falls into the arena where it soaks in the Mega Mac for a bit, then pops out covered in it. It bounces around chasing you, then eventually sheds its shield and becomes the big Ice Disc fight for a bit. Then the boss is, well, possibly the best and most creative boss in the game, that being Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. And to explain this boss, all I need to do is explain the game of Puyo Puyo. You have a 6x12 grid and you have the left board. A group of 2 Puyos will fall from the top, move them to your desired location, and connect groups of 4 of the same color to pop them. There are 5 colors: red, green, blue, yellow, and violet. You lose if your Puyos pile up too much, and getting chains of Puyo popping will send gray Puyos to Eggman's board. Those can only be destroyed by popping adjacent Puyos. Also, Puyos are affected by gravity, and also fun fact, this boss and Metal Sonic are the only 2 fights to have their own unique theme, other than, of course, the final boss. Also, Metal Sonic's theme was originally not a boss theme. Metal Sonic's theme is a remix of Stardust, Speedway, Bad Future. And that's just Metal Sonic's theme now, due to the fact that they didn't give him a boss theme in Sonic CD. The next zone from Sonic 2 is Oil Ocean Zone. Once again, very similar to Sonic 2 in the first act, although I think this one has new level design. But there is a new gimmick, that being fire. When in oil, if you have a flame shield, the oil will light on fire. And this does have the ability to hurt you. It just doesn't, due to you already wearing the fire shield, which blocks fire damage. Then in Act 2, they had a bunch of gimmicks based off Sandopolis Zone. The sand that you could jump up in Sandopolis was replaced by oil, and instead of flipping switches to stop the lights from going out so ghosts don't get you, you are flipping a switch to remove the smoke, as in Act 2, Oil Ocean Zone is on fire, specifically, fire not caused by you. The Badniks are the returning Aquiz and Octus, and Gola, coming in from Hilltop Zone, joins the fun. And Gola can also light Oil Ocean's oil on fire like the Flame Shield. The sub-boss is Meter Droid. I don't know what this man does, I beat him in 5 seconds. The boss is Mega Octus. This boss starts out like the Egg Marine, but it pulls down the platforms with it at the start, before letting them back up as it goes under the oil to once again either use the laser gun or the scorpion tail. After that, tentacles will pop up and pull down the platforms, and both Mega Octus and the Eyes from Heat Arms fight are also here for some reason. You can destroy them, but you don't need to. Hit Mega Octus 8 times and he is dead. And like the Egg Marine, it's very easy to bounce on top of and beat. Okay, this time we have 3 zones to talk about. 1 from Sonic 3 and 2 from Sonic & Knuckles. The first zone being Flying Battery Zone, and again this zone just shares mostly the same layout as its appearance in Sonic & Knuckles for Act 1. But there is a good new gimmick that just makes it a lot better. That being, the old magnetic ceilings now also attract you if you have an electric shield. It's used quite a lot and it's very fun. Then in Act 2 there are many one-way doors that lead inside or outside the flying battery, and a lot of new gimmicks such as the fans from Winged Fortress and the electrical conduits from Wacky Workbench. Although a difference with the electrical conduits is you can actually break them now. The Badniks are once again Blaster and Techno Squeak, but coming from Winged Fortress we have Clucker, and deciding on a different job we have Mad Mole from Mushroom Hill Zone, now manning the electrical conduits. The sub-boss is Big Squeeze. It's like Laser Prison, but without the laser. You are trapped in a room with Big Squeeze, the room is closing in, and it's creating zombie Orbinauts to attack you. You have three options to attack it. Either bounce off the zombie Orbinauts to hit Laser Prison, wait for the room to close in enough to just jump up and hit them, or just use tails. The boss is the Spider-Mobile, and this is easily the worst boss in the game. Eggman piloting the Spider-Mobile. You cannot attack him directly, you need to bounce him into spikes. The easiest way to do that is to fling yourself at him off one of the turbine poles, but there are some chances where you just can jump at him and maybe get him into the spikes. And he will shoot lasers at you most of the time. Once he's done shooting lasers, he will fall to the floor, making it harder to bounce him. It's a very boring boss fight and it takes way too long. The next zone is Hydrocity Zone, and remember that talk about Mania flying? Well, throw that out the window because they did not do that for Hydrocity Zone. The only two things that be considered Mania-fying Hydrocity Zone is taking the grabby hands from Act 2 and putting them into Act 1, and adding a new Badnik. The Badniks being Blastoid, Buggernaut, Jaws, Mega Chopper, Point Dexter, and Turbo Spiker, with a new one being Gelignite from Sonic 2, specifically the mobile port, as there's a secret zone in Mystic Cave Zone called Hidden Palace that's only in the mobile port, and Gelignite is from Hidden Palace Zone. The sub-boss is Dive Eggman. Eggman, who is swimming, is placing bombs in the water. But you have a secret weapon. His weapon, in fact, is you get to pilot the Egg Vortex. Create a vortex to suck Eggman up, avoid the bombs he is placing, but you can also release your own bombs to destroy Eggman's bombs. The boss is the Laundromobile. You are underwater being pulled forward with Eggman piloting the Laundromobile behind you. Avoid spikes and blocks in the water. Push the buttons on bombs to activate them to hit Eggman. Do these enough times and you'll go to Phase 2. And Phase 2 is just a big shaker fight I already covered in my Sonic 3 video. Oh wait, I forgot. Hydrocity Zone does get a new gimmick. These slow-moving boats. Moving on! The final zone from Sonic 3 and Knuckles is Lava Reef Zone, and once again Act 1 is very similar to the first Lava Reef, sharing the same exact gimmicks. But Act 2 brings back the flamethrowers, but also adds in the conveyor belts from Quartz Quadrant Zone, which is fine. It's not the best gimmick to bring back, but they do use it well at times. The Badniks are once again Iwamadoki, Fireworm, Toximister, and coming in from Hilltop Zone we also have Rexon. The sub-boss is Driller Droid. Driller Droid digs out the ceiling to land on top of you, but it will dig through the floor causing lava to shoot up into it, destroying its armor. Do this 3 times to start being able to effectively hit it. This fight was easy for me because I had Supersonic. The boss is Heavy Rider. She rides from left to right on a souped-up Motobug named Jimmy, swinging a giant flail around her, occasionally jumping and doing tricks. But I also had Supersonic for this fight, making it also very easy. Also, fun-ish fact, Jimmy the Motobug is named after the late Polygon Jim, who was a member of the Sonic hacking community, but sadly he died in a car accident. But why they named a Motobug after him is due to him having made the ROM hack Motobug and Sonic the Hedgehog. Okay, finally, we are on to the new zones, of which there are 4. Also, it seems 2 out of the 4 take place on West Side Island, 1 takes place on Angel Island, with the last taking place on Little Planet. If we base it off of zone transitions, of course. The first one is Studiopolis Zone. This game's obligatory pinball zone, which there are actually 2 pinball zones in this game. Except this time, I like the pinball zone. Maybe it's because they don't lean as much into the pinball gimmicks, But most of the gimmicks here use the idea of a movie set, with the director's chair that take it to higher places, the Sega Sonic popcorn shop, which is a real arcade game by the way, and Act 2 really ramps up with a lot more gimmicks, the stage lights that can be used as platforms for falling being jumped on, or high-speed warp tubes you can either run or get sent through, and film reels you can run on, and a giant lottery machine. The badniks are Canister, Mic Drop, Shutterbug, and Turbonite. The sub-boss is Heavy Gunner. Running along a wavy platform, Heavy Gunner, with his posse of egg robos, tries to shoot you with some missiles. 2 red, 1 blue. The red ones you can't touch without getting hit, the blue ones you can hit back. And it goes slower than the red ones. Try to hit Heavy Gunner 4 times, and he will flee, winning the battle. The boss is Weather Glow. Eggman flies just out of reach with a weather channel in the background. Also, it seems Cluckoid is the news anchor. That will give a forecast, which can be wind, which sweeps you to the top of the arena where there are spikes, grab onto the poles at either side of the arena, and time your hits on Eggman. Then there's heat. There will be an intense heat. Eggman lowers, stay under Eggman, and to the aid of the heat, hit Eggman while he is lowered. Then, finally, lightning. This just summons a bunch of clouds to shoot lightning at you. Or, you can ignore all of that and just do what I did and just use tails. The next zone is Press Garden Zone. Act 1 is in a paper factory where Eggman makes propaganda. Act 1 is very vertical with many ways to get up, such as the rotating tubes from Launch Base Zone and conveyor belts of paper that you can bounce off, and a plethora of other gimmicks that are not going to matter anymore in Act 2, where everything is frozen. It now being this game's ice level, with gimmicks such as freezing you like an ice cap zone. Just this time it's actually helpful. Also, the arrow columns from Aquatic Ruin Zone return, this time shooting sideways Astrons. The badniks are Ice Bomba, Juggle Saw, Splats, who, fun fact, was a cut badnik from Sonic 1, and from Mushroom Hill Zone we have Dragonfly. The sub-boss is Shiver Saw. He floats around ready an attack with his saws, make him hit an orange box to break his saw, and hit him before he grows it back. It's simple and easy. The boss is Heavy Shinobi. He jumps around. If you get too close, he will slash you, freezing you, and while jumping, he will throw Astrons at you. They work just like how they did in Sonic 2, exploding into spikes in 5 directions, and he throws them like ninja stars. It's a very simple boss fight, and I find it easy. Next up is Mirage Saloon, and due to me covering specifically Sonic's story right now, Mirage Saloon is easily the worst stage in the game, specifically due to Act 1. Act 2 is really great with all its gimmicks, and I also think it's the other obligatory pinball stage, but that's not my problem with it. My problem is Act 1. It's just a marginally better Sky Chase zone. It's just as boring, it's got practically the same mechanics and badniks. The only upside is the controls for the Tornado, I think, are a little bit better, and the level looks nicer than Sky Chase Zone. Halfway through, you land on a train for about 30 seconds before launching back up onto the Tornado for a sub-boss. Then in Act 2, it's a normal level with a lot of Western theming, like a giant revolver you can shoot yourself out of, or a giant seltzer bottle, and giant piano keys. And it's the much better act. The badniks are Armadilloid, Bumpalo, Cactula, Rattle Killer, Roller Mark II, the sequel to that one badnik in Springyard Zone, and Voltron. The sub-boss is Uber Caterkiller. Back in the Tornado, Heavy Magician summons Uber Caterkiller to start jumping at you, either from the sides, the background, or the foreground. You can only hit its head and underside of his body, bounces you, while the top has spikes. This boss is instantly made terrible by it taking place on the Tornado. The boss is Heavy Magician, who will turn into one of 3 characters that we have not met before, and we'll talk about more in depth once we eventually do the spin-offs and extras. Those 3 being Fang the Sniper from Sonic Triple Trouble, also known as Knack the Weasel. When Heavy Magician disguised as Fang, she will bounce around and shoot Knack's pop gun at you. Then there is Bean the Dynamite from Sonic the Fighters, and Heavy Magician in this form will just throw bombs at you. Then third is Bark the Polar Bear, also from Sonic the Fighters. As Bark, Heavy Magician will use her hands to slam into the ground and cause stage lights to fall on you. To defeat her, you need to just jump into the skies of one of the Fang's gang to stun Heavy Magician so you can hit her. She takes 8 hits, and 2 hits to get her to change to a different disguise. Then, there's the final level in the game, that being Titanic Monarch. This zone is especially vertical as it has a lot of gimmicks having you go upwards, like the magnetic spheres, which I think are from the special stages of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, or the bumper walls from Metropolis Zone. And I think this zone is fine, I never really have been fond of it. Act 2 introduces the new gimmick of Ruby Mist that will teleport you, and Act 2 is a bunch of challenge rooms to pretty much test your skills. The badniks are Ball Hog, returning from Scrap Brain Zone, Flasher Mark II, the sequel to that one badnik in Mystic Cave Zone, Sentry Bug, and Turbo Turtle. The sub-boss is Crimson Eye, the successor to Red Eye, and like the last version, I bullied him with Supersonic, so I don't even know what he does. The boss is the Phantom Egg. The normal final boss, he floats around with 4 cables connected to him, and a shield. Soon he'll start trying to jump on you before resting and electrifying his cables, hurting you if you touch them. But he also lowers his shield, so hit him, and once you hit him 4 times, a cable of his breaks. And occasionally, while he is bouncing, he will shoot out 4 missiles, but soon he will start floating in the middle to grab you with his hands. This will pull you into a different fight against one of the Phantom Heavies, which includes Phantom Gunner, Shinobi, Magician, and Rider, although I did not get to see the Phantom Magician or Rider. But defeat the Phantom Heavy or pit against to get back to Eggman, and repeat until he loses all of his cables. Overall, I don't think there's a single bad zone in this game, but I'm still going to give my opinion onto what the Labyrinth Zone of this game is, and I would say it's Mirage Saloon, specifically due to Act 1. Now, we'll rank the zones from good to best. Mirage Saloon, Oil Ocean, Green Hill, Lava Reef, Titanic Monarch, Studiopolis, Chemical Plant, Flying Battery, Stardust Speedway, Hydrocity, Metallic Madness, and finally, Press Garden. Of course, this game does suffer a lack of originality, but does that really matter when it's freaking fantastic? Next, we have the final boss, and if you have all 7 Chaos Emeralds after beating the Phantom Egg, you'll be sent to Egg Reverie Zone, and you can fly around as Supersonic collecting rings, and you have to fight both Eggman in the Kleptomobile and Phantom King, who are duking it out for the Phantom Ruby. And this is the worst final boss fight yet. Maybe a little bit better than CD's fight. You fight one boss at a time, starting with Heavy King, who forms a shield around him with energy balls and starts shooting them at you. Getting hit by one makes you lose 10 rings, and it's pretty annoying trying to hit Heavy King. But once you hit him, he will drop the ruby, and Eggman shows up to punch you away. That's all he really does, and he can't hurt you, making it very easy to hit him. And you just play a game of back and forth 8 times, then you win, and get the good ending. You get to these the same way as in Sonic 3, but these I would say are based off of Sonic R, which is a spin-off we'll cover later. These, you have to chase down a UFO from Sonic CD's special stage, and you can collect blue spheres to make you go faster, but you also have to collect rings to increase the time. There are also capsules that can give rings or more blue spheres. These stages usually have a lot of different gimmicks like ramps or bombs. It can get really hard to catch up to the UFOs, and the max speed you can go up to is Mach 5, and also turning around will make the UFO turn around, just in case you were curious. And once again, there are 7 Chaos Emeralds to obtain Supersonic, and the Super Emeralds do not return. The only fun fact I have for this is the music was composed by T. Loeb, so you may know as the man who did the soundtrack for the Sonic 2 HD fan project, and he knocked it out of the park with both his remix of old tracks and his new themes, which I'll be doing 2 top 3s. One for the remixes, and another only for the original themes. My top 3 for remixes is Hydrocity Zone Act 2, Metallic Madness Act 2, and Stardust Speedway Bad Future. And for the new themes, Press Garden Zone Act 2, Ruby Delusions, and Studiopolis Zone Act 1. Once again, Knuckles gets his own routes, and this time it's the same story happening at the same time as Sonic's. And he has the exact same abilities as he had in Sonic 3 and Knuckles. And that's about it. But in Knuckles' story, he gets a new Act 1 for Mirage Saloon that's not on the tornado, and is an actual level. And a new fight against the Uber Caterpillar. This time, he sticks to the right side of the screen so he can throw his balls at you, getting shorter until you can hit his head. Once he loses all his balls, he grows them back and starts throwing them again. Also, there is a different boss fight in Lava Reef Zone. Instead of fighting Heavy Rider, he fights Heavy King, in a detour to Hidden Palisade. Heavy King tries to steal the Master Emerald, but this time Knuckles learned from his mistakes and stops him initiating a boss fight, where like Mecha Sonic Mark II, Heavy King will power up with the Master Emerald to either shoot a laser at you, surround himself in energy balls and jump at you, or fire a bunch of bullets at you, but he is very easy to hit and I do not find him difficult. And this does change my rankings. It's now Oil Ocean, Green Hill Zone, Lava Reef Zone, Mirage Saloon, Titanic Monarch, Studiopolis, Chemical Plant Zone, Flying Batteries, Stardust Speedway, Hydrosity, Metallic Madness, and Press Garden. To 100% complete Sonic Mania, you must do the bonus stages gotten to through similar means as to get the special stages in Sonic 2. This time with 25 rings though. And the bonus stage is Blue Spheres. It's back from Sonic 3 and Knuckles with the same levels from Sonic 3 and Knuckles with some new ones. Just collecting Blue Spheres will get you a silver medal, but getting a perfect bonus will get you a gold medal. Unlocking medals will get you rewards such as the Super Peel Out and Insta Shield as abilities, and Knuckles Mode, or Puyo Puyo. As a minigame, unlocking all these medals is how you 100% the game. So, after paying a fee of $4.99 plus tax, you gain Encore Mode, which is the ability to play through the entire game a third time with slight differences, mainly in the palette of zones. Most of them seem to be differences in the time of day, although Stardust Speedway and Metallic Madness seem to be based off their respective bad futures. And through buying the DLC, you can get two new characters, that being Mighty the Armadillo and Ray the Flying Squirrel. Mighty can smash into the ground at high speeds, breaking most things under him, and when curled into a ball, he bounces off spikes and reflects projectiles. And Ray can glide. Think of the Cape Feather from Mario World, and that's Ray. And Encore Mode does add a new gimmick, that being swapping characters. You almost always have a tag team duel characters at a time, and you can swap on the fly. And your lives are replaced by all the different characters. Dying removes that character until you hit a life monitor, and there is a special swap monitor to swap the character you are playing as with the next in rotation, and a randomizer monitor that will randomize who you and your teammates are. Also, for some reason, Mirage Saloon gets a new Act 1, and it's the only stage that gets this treatment. Also, you start the mode by playing through the first bit of Angel Island Zone from Sonic 3, and finally, the special stages are changed a lot. They have the same basic principle, but all of them get new layouts that are much harder, and there's a new gimmick of bouncers that I hate. And finally, after all that, we have to rank Sonic Mania. And first of all, this game is fantastic. I'm just gonna say that first. The levels are near perfect. The bosses are much more complicated than the first 4 games, to mixed results. The music is fantastic, the graphics are fantastic, the gameplay is perfect, and the only problem I have with it is the lack of originality, and that's not even a major problem. So, after all that, I give it an S tier!
You know, what can I say?
Third one in a row, and a true love letter to the Genesis era for Sonic's 25th anniversary. So with that, I'm out of here.